And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
We are back, fellas.
We're back.
We're ready for episode 17 already of this second season.
Isn't that crazy?
Time
You know,
flies, man.
You think about it. I mean, it doesn't feel all that long ago. We were talking about, man, the season's starting up, and we're talking about where teams are going to line up. And now, I mean, all of a sudden, it's like week 11 in the NFL, and you know, college is week 10, week 11. It's like, holy buckets, week 12. Yeah. It's amazing how quick it goes. And then by proxy, of course, we're already season 2, episode 17, you know, so feels like we just started, but I digress.
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
Right, boys.
Unless you're, you know, Cyclone fan or a Florida State fan or a Iowa fan or a Nebraska fan, or I don't know, throw it out there. You know,
I had lunch with a Florida State fan today. I talked to Ed about it. I felt really bad for him. He didn't have to pay for lunch, so.
Well, I mean, you know, and we'll talk about it, but with the new college, the 12-team college playoff coming up as it stands right now, I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when we get into it.
Brett's been busy. Brett's been busy getting the old, I'm sure everybody, if you're on Facebook at all, on X at all, has seen Brett's, he posts a little bit on there from the bottom line.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But why don't you talk a little bit, Brett, about some of the pages that have we're working with and we're looking for more and more follows from.
And SEC Conference, SEC Unfiltered, Big Ten Battleground, NFL fans, of course, United Football League fans group, XFL Conference, UFL America, my goodness, ACC Network fan page. I'm sure I mentioned the Big 12. We've got a lot that's been helping us out and allowing us to post our podcast in their group, along with a lot of our other content. So that's really helped out.
Why don't you go ahead and go do what you got to do, and in the meantime, we can talk college football and see how much we can talk about behind your back before you come back.
And he's gone. And he's out there.
Hey, Marty, how you doing? Hey, Henry, good seeing everybody. Let's start. Let's keep it. We'll keep it short and sweet. Let's talk about the Big 12 first.
There isn't much to talk about.
In fact, let me get the old.
We'll hide Chad here for a minute because he'll be behind the screen, but you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
You didn't give me anything. All there's going to be is the ticker there, dude.
The ticker. That's right.
Oh, well, that must be Brett slacking. We can say that while he's off of here. But after looking at the initial college playoff and how things are going to line up, I mean, it's clear that it's going to be. I mean, Notre Dame, unless they absolutely crap their pants, is always going to be in it with the schedule that they play. If they're going to take the Mountain West and make that an automatic bid, at the 12 where Boise State is right now, sitting at 8-1, and they're going to take, 4 to 5 SEC teams, 4 to 5 Big Ten teams. I mean, it's pointless to discuss anything for the ACC or the Big 12, regardless of how good they may or may not be. So it's irrelevant to make power rankings any longer because they've clearly, I mean, we've talked about maybe getting a three-loss team from the SEC. Well, okay. I mean, if it's going to be about, the money they want to draw from it and stuff like that, great. Then let the Big Ten and let the SEC go, I guess. Let them do whatever they want to do. And, everybody else can just, I guess, play football.
Yeah, Kirk Herbstreit made the comment on College Game Day Saturday morning that he looked for 5 SEC teams at least to be in the 12. So, that being the case, 2 of the 5 are probably going to end up being 3-loss teams.
Yeah. And that's why I said, you've got some 2-loss teams on there. I mean, I look at it like this, if that's the way that they're going to shake it out, I mean, if I was the Big 12 and the ACC and anything else, I'd be like, to hell with it. If it's going to be an SEC versus Big 10, then just let it be and be done with it. I mean, it's to me, it's not, when they went to this 12, if they're not going to at least look at the top 2 in the ACC, look at the top 2 in the Big 12, you're going to take a 4th place, 5th place team in the SEC. There's no point in it. There's no point in caring about anything else in college football in the SEC and the Big Ten. They've clearly made that. And the thing about it is, it's going to become – I can't wait for the day when some of the Big Ten teams, your Nebraskas, your Iowas, your mid to lower level Big Ten teams that are kind of middle of the road, when they get tired of it, when it's all about your Big 3, and in the SEC it's all about your Big 4, Big 5. I mean, that's fine. If it's just going to be about, your top 8 teams and things like that, let it be then.
Well,
let it be.
We'll save that spicy discussion for when they make the top 12 when it's all said and done, because that's when we can really get into who we feel deserve to be in, because as I told you before, I'm not so sure that the 3-loss SEC teams or whoever it is, I don't look at records. I look at the 12 best. So,
well, yeah, but here's the deal. Okay, if it's the 12 best, then take the top 2 out of the Big 10 and take the top 10 out of the SEC then.
Well,
if that's what you think.
We'll have
here's the deal. Yeah, we can have that discussion, but like I said, when it comes to the Big 12 rankings, right now, it's BYU. You just will forget about, unless if somebody can beat BYU in the Big 12 championship, okay, then that changes. But then what do you do?
But look at college football this year. For some reason this year, it seems to me anyway, there's just not those dominant 2, 3, 4 teams that you can put up there and say, okay, these are the 3 or 4 teams. They're above everybody else. It seems like this year it's like any given week. I'm actually surprised that Oregon has lasted as long as they have at number 1. I figured that they would get bumped off. So I guess
using your argument right there, if college football is more of a man, anybody can get beat any given week, then why are they still giving the SEC that many teams? They're not keeping Georgia out of there. I don't care what anybody says. There is no damn way that they are going to leave that money pot of gold out of the 12
I was surprised. I was surprised to see the SEC team that they left out was Georgia.
Yeah, and that's bull crap.
Well, if Georgia loses to Tennessee, they're absolutely out.
Well, but Ed just said a 3-loss team could be there.
It's not going to happen, Ed.
The Big 12, they let them all go. The Big 12 has been poorly managed for the last 20-plus years. They let Texas run the show, and that ruined the whole Big 12. I would love nothing more than the Big 12 be what it used to be and have Nebraska be in the Big 12 than the Big 20, than the Big 10. But that's not the way it shook out. That's not reality. And they ran the Big 12 into the ground, and all the big dogs left. I'm sorry, but they did. And now what you're left with is what you're left with. You have to go undefeated because the rest of the conference isn't up to snuff. And that's just the reality of the situation. Is it fair? I don't know. Life sure as hell ain't fair.
But you can't convince me that this is a money grab. It's a money grab.
Well, it's all about money, dude. This isn't amateur sport anymore. This is a professional sport.
And you're definitely right about that. This is not amateur sport anymore.
Everybody needs to get that out of their head.
But do you really want a Kansas State to end up in the playoffs and get beat 45-7 in the first round so everybody can say, "See, we told you"?
I remember when TCU made it to the 4-team playoff. And they said, Jesus, TCU is going to get killed in the semifinal. And what happened?
Well, how did that championship game work out? I turned it off at the end of the first quarter.
Listen, I get that. But what I'm saying is to just assume that if you have ACC or Big 12 teams or even some of these Big 10 teams get in there and they're going to get blown out, you're assuming a lot, especially this year.
I understand your frustration and your anger, but it's all directed at the wrong. It's all going the wrong way. You need to be directing all of this at the commissioner of the Big 12, the Big 12 presidents, and how they've ran the Big 12 for the last 20+ years. It's all. I
mean, they let Nebraska go, then SMU's in the damn ACC, and then Texas and Oklahoma's gone. I mean, Chad's right. And the ACC is down so much now. I mean, you might get 2 ACC teams in there.
But not the way it looks.
I mean, we've sit there and watched Miami struggle for half a dozen weeks. And look, Cam Ward's a good player, and I like Cristobal. You know, he coached here. He played at Miami. It's a good story. But are they really that good? I mean, when Miami makes it to the playoffs, there's a good chance they're going to get their ass kicked, no matter who they play against. And it's either between SMU, Clemson, or Miami and ACC. And what happens if one of them gets in or 2 of them gets in? Do you really think either one of them is going to make a run? I mean, I get what you're saying, but the last couple of weeks just watching these teams play, I'm like, man, look. We've been watching football some almost 30, 40, 50 years. We got eyes. Some of these teams, I'm gonna be honest with you. The team is getting no respect right now that I think could make a little noise in the playoffs, and that's Notre Dame. And I'm not. I'm just saying. I mean,
So what do you think of Cameron's comment here? He says whoever gets to play BYU gets essentially a bye.
what's up, Cameron? Thanks for joining us, man. You had
You
a good
know,
weekend. Cameron's a big Ole Miss fan. I've known him in the groups for years. So, hotty toddy, brother. If you go back and look at the last episode, your fat Alabama buddy right here called it. I called. Did I not, fellas? Did I not say
you
it's
did. You
time for
did.
Lane Kiffin to win one of these big ones?
You did.
So, congratulations, man.
Well, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that BYU beats Colorado in the Big 12 championship game if that's who they play. But I think Colorado could win that game. But I think there's no doubt about that. But
Georgia losing was the worst thing for the playoff committee, because the argument that you guys make about a 3-loss team can't get in the playoffs, blah blah blah. They were holding out hope that they were going to have their top teams. We're only going to have one loss. So now what happens? Georgia gets beat. Georgia's going to go in. They're probably going to beat. They play Tennessee, right? So they're probably going to beat Tennessee. So now Tennessee's going to go to 2 losses. And so now you automatically have the SEC championship that can hang another loss on a 2-loss team. So I hate to say it, guys, but there's going to at least be 4 SEC teams in the playoffs. Book it. And I just have a feeling that there's going to be at least 1, if not 2 SEC teams that are going to have 3 losses, because you're getting to that point of the season now where they're beating up on each other. Plus you have the championship game. So you even have Georgia now. They've all got 2 losses. So now what?
Well, and you think about like the Texas Longhorns. I don't know how they did it. Supposedly the whole draw was random, but if you look at all the SEC team schedules and then you compare it to Texas, you think how did Texas in their first year of the SEC pull such an easy ass schedule?
Well, I thought it was in the bylaws of the SEC conference that they were supposed to have a quote balanced schedule between all teams in the conference. So how the hell did Texas get the kind of schedule they got?
Well, it was supposedly random, but one of their big rivalries, which they want to stick with each year, is Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's way down this year. So that definitely didn't help Texas's strength of schedule. I don't even know who they've got remaining. Well, I do know they've got A&M on the road the last game of the year, which will be.
Yeah. They're at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, and then they go finish up at A&M, which is a renewal of that rivalry. That used to be their other massive rivalry,
right,
in the Southwestern Conference and in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So that is Texas A&M is not going to be a pushover for them.
Just like
in College Station.
Just like Charles says here, he says Tennessee might beat Georgia. That might have happened, but I think Georgia just got woke up because now they've went through a week of the committee saying that they're the first team out. So now it's like an oh crap moment. So I think Tennessee's going to get a Georgia team. I don't know. They're going to be loaded for bear, I think, this week.
And I tell you what, Tennessee's quarterback might not play. They just released the depth chart for this weekend, and he is questionable. And I told you about the rumor I heard that he might have had a seizure or something in the locker room at halftime of that game or whenever he got hurt last week, and it was a head injury. So I don't. And they've got a lot of other people banged up too. I think if it was a neutral site or in Knoxville, I would think Tennessee could win that game if the quarterback plays. But in Athens. And it's a night game. That's going to be a real tough game for Tennessee.
Well, what would be interesting looking at Georgia's schedule remaining? Let's say they beat Tennessee, then they got UTEP, but then they have to go to Vandy, and wouldn't that be hilarious if Vandy took down another giant? That would be That'd be incredible. That'd be hilarious.
So
Vandy
Van,
almost
if you're
beat
the team-
Texas. Vandy almost beat South Carolina. Vandy's no pushover.
Well,
I know they're not.
What's Vandy's record?
6-4,
Something like that.
Okay.
something like that.
I was going to say
They're bowl eligible for the first time in I think forever.
Yeah. And
So,
the quarterback, Pavlia, is trying to get another year, and the NCAA put that on hold. I meant to share that today in the group.
That a Vanderbilt quarterback is trying to get another year.
Trying to come back, yeah.
Usually they're like, listen, thanks for the education, man. I'm out of here. I'm not getting beat up anymore.
So, Chad, as we've been knocking these teams around here, you got your top 4 in the Big Ten is Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. Let's incorporate those 4 teams into the discussion here. In fact, let me just go ahead and put the bracket up for what the committee has currently set as the playoffs. If they were to happen today, here's what the matchups would be. You got Indiana against Alabama. You got a Penn State against Ole Miss. Ohio State. I mean, I look at that bracket with BYU. That kind of seems like the weak link to me. You got the winner of Ole Miss and Penn State going and playing BYU. I just don't think Penn State has the offense to hang in this kind of a tournament.
One thing, Pat, you guys aren't even taking into account, we're used to warm weather here. We'll usually have one cooler weather game, maybe 2 before the season's over. But you're looking at some SEC teams going to Indiana, to Pennsylvania. If you flip the bracket around, Tennessee might end up in South Bend, and this is all like December 20th games. So you could have some snow games up there, which could really change, some of the southern teams that might have a little bit of an advantage playing down here. Now, what are they going to do in 30-degree weather with it snowing and wind blowing 20 miles an hour?
That's what I've been dreaming about for 35 years.
Cameron agrees with me. He says in this scenario here, Ole Miss would be set.
Yep.
I tell you what, though, if Penn State can find a little bit of an offense, that's no cakewalk going to Happy Valley and December 20th. They ain't no telling what the weather will be like.
Chad, you need to part the Red Sea there, buddy.
Oh, well, I can't see it on my screen, so I have it up someplace else.
Get up to the 21st century, dude.
Yeah, well, let's see. There we go.
Okay, so looking at this, if Georgia goes in and beats Tennessee, I'm not up enough on the conference standings to know who would be considered the top 2 teams for the SEC championship in that scenario. But if Georgia goes in and lays a second loss on Tennessee, and then,
Texas is number 1. They've got 1 loss. That's to Georgia.
Right. So if Texas keeps that 1 loss, now you're looking at Ole Miss with Georgia beating. If Georgia beats Tennessee, you're going to have Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, all sitting there with 2 losses.
This would be your standings. This would be your standings if Texas beats Tennessee, or if Georgia beats Tennessee, and Texas stays with 1 loss. It would go Texas A&M, Georgia, I believe Ole Miss, Alabama beat Tennessee, correct?
Alabama lost to Tennessee. They beat Georgia.
So here's how it would go then. It would go Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama.
Keep in mind, Texas and Texas A&M plays last game of the season, like we just mentioned.
But I'm just saying, after next
There's-
week, if that's how it plays out, that's where it
There's
sits.
3 losses in there, boys. For one of those teams that's going to get in, I hate to say it, but there's that list that he just read off is long and deep, and they're all teams that are worthy of a playoff spot. And I don't care what you say about 3 losses. There's going to be a 3-loss SEC team in the playoff.
Okay, if it plays out like that, what 3-loss team goes up there and who comes off? Notre Dame? Penn State?
Well, I say Notre Dame hasn't played a schedule that warrants anything.
Doesn't matter. They're going to make money. That's the problem. When you put
Well, Notre Dame
in there,
did beat Texas A&M on the road.
so they had to show up for one game?
Well, they got Boise State as number 12 for a reason, I'm sure.
No, it has to. They have to. That's the Mountain West. That's the automatic bid, number 5.
No, they're not an automatic bid.
It's not automatic. It's a free. What do you call it?
Nope.
The highest ranking FCS team or whatever.
But what I'm saying is you can't plug in Notre Dame into that spot.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Boise State is locked into that. I'm saying that you can't put Notre Dame there. You can't put Georgia there. You can't put, whoever in there.
Russell throws a twist into things too. Russell says that he doesn't think Texas can go in and beat Arkansas either.
Well, that's an old, old Southwest rival. They can't stand each other, and it is in Arkansas. But I mean, Texas better show up. And if Arkansas beats Texas, they would have 2 losses. They still got to beat A&M, so that would be an automatic elimination game between A&M and Texas. What about the team? What about the team? And say if there's 2 2-loss teams in the SEC championship game, and one of those teams lose, and they end up with a 3rd loss. Are they eliminated, and then the other 2-loss teams jump them?
Is the committee going to give credence to the 3rd-loss team that made the championship game? Give them a head and shoulder above the other 3 losses?
If you're talking about the second team in the SEC having 3 losses, I mean, then you're talking everybody else in the SEC has 3 losses.
No, by the time if they can make the championship game,
as a 2-loss team,
and then they lose in the championship game, that gives them their 3rd loss. So that's what we're talking about. Would that give them the leg up still since they made the championship game over any of the other 3-loss teams?
A lot of Alabama fans around here trying to say, if this happens and this happens, we'll go. I said, there's no need to go to the SEC championship game. There's no need. It's a 12-team playoff now. If we're going, if we're starting to peak at the right time, let's keep as many players healthy as we can and rest up for an extra week. There's nothing to gain out of it other than saying we're SEC champions. Well,
that's another topic of discussion too that I heard. I don't know if it was a College Game Day or whether it was on one of the talk shows this week, but they made the comment that now that they've gone to this type of system, teams are if they're gonna penalize teams for losing a conference championship game, then they should eliminate conference championship games, because if you're not going to make every team have to go through a conference championship to make this field, then you can't penalize teams that make conference championships and lose.
Well, the flaw, I think, one of the flaws of this format is we can't give automatic bids and buys to the winners of the 4 conferences. I mean, they might be able to make it in, might be able to be one of the 12, but they don't necessarily get one of the top 4 seeds. That's stupid. You can conceivably have to award. I don't care what they're trying to do, but you could have a 3 or 4 loss team getting a bye and being a top 4 seed. That's so stupid.
I mean, they're literally looking at this and they're having an oh shit moment, because Miami, they didn't plan on Miami losing. So now one of their 4 bye teams has a chink in their armor. I wouldn't be surprised to see Colorado take out BYU coming up.
No, I think on the path that Colorado's going, I think Colorado will end up winning the Big 12. And they've got 2 losses. But, I mean, looks like everybody else is going to have 2 losses.
Colorado only has 1 loss.
They've got 2 losses for the
they got
season, don't they?
Colorado has 2 losses.
Thought they lost to Nebraska.
They did.
They did, but they lost to someone else, too.
They lost to someone else, too. Let's see.
Well, I'm looking it up right now. Oh, in conference play, they only have 1 loss.
Who was the other game they lost? I can't even remember.
They lost to Nebraska and Kansas State. They lost 31-28 about 4 weeks ago.
So,
the exact argument you're making, Eric, the SEC could make. The SEC could make the argument of, well, we have the toughest, deepest conference. We have the toughest schedules, and you're penalizing us for that.
Well, but
have the easier schedules, and
right.
So they only have 1 loss or 2 losses. Those 1s or 2 losses couldn't do anything.
Here's what torques me off about that, and this is going to piss some SEC people off, I'm sure, but I really don't care. If you're a student and you're applying to Alabama, for example, I mean, the requirements compared to even an Iowa State is, do you have a heartbeat? Can you put 1 foot in front of the other? Come on in. And you can make that argument for a lot of schools, especially a lot of the schools in the Big Ten. So if the SEC, if you're not going to have the guidelines across the board for entrance into, whatever.
I think it should be uniform. I agree.
At least when it comes to your athletes, if Harvard, for example, they keep their standards, but when it comes to playing football at Harvard, maybe those standards come down a little bit, whatever. But there has to be some sort of standard across the board when you have a Northwestern recruiting compared to, I'm sorry, an Alabama or an LSU. How many fingers am I holding up? 2. You can play football at LSU.
Look at Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame deals with it every year.
Yeah.
But the thing that Notre Dame has that maybe some of these other schools don't have is they have the tradition. They have freaking movies made about them.
Yeah.
Yes, but okay, I understand your point, but it doesn't take away from the reality of what's here right now. The reality.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is
where we're working and operating and living under right now is that the SEC teams can make the exact same argument against you that you're making towards them.
But what I'm trying to say is when the thumb is on the scale and there is an advantage, I mean,
life ain't fair, man.
I know, but what I'm saying is when you allow that type of standard to be, but then when you create this playoff and you try to create it under the era of, well, it's just the better team.
Well, all these schools that have higher academic standards, they got to figure out what's more important to them. Do they lower the standards so they can compete with some of these big schools? I mean, it's they want to whine and complain about the SEC and the Big Ten. Well, if Northwestern, Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt and all these other schools want to be able to compete, then you can always lower your academic standards. Like you said, it's a big money grab. They'd be stupid not to.
But I just don't ever see a Vanderbilt wanting to lower their standards. I don't ever see a Northwestern wanting to lower their standards. And you can say, well, I guess that's their problem then. But then, you take teams like, I mean, the only thing that I could see, for the Big 12 and the ACC to survive is if the top 6 programs in the Big 12 and the top 6 programs in the ACC say, screw it, we got to get together and create something, hopefully Florida State gets back online. Hopefully. And so then there's, because otherwise, I mean, hell, I can make an argument that probably only 2, maybe 3 Big Ten teams deserve to be in there. I mean, I can make an argument. I get it, Indiana, but who the hell's Indiana beat?
Florida State hitting rock bottom has really took a lot of the luster off the ACC.
I get that. But the only reason that we're giving, I mean, we've all said it, Penn State's offense is terrible. Who have they played? They've played a lot of other Big Ten teams whose offenses are equally as terrible. I mean, so if we want to start talking, if Ed wants to start talking about, hey,
Big 12 defenses are terrible. I mean, you can say that. So, I mean,
I understand that, but what I'm saying is when you're trying to put the Big Ten on the same pedestal as the SEC, that they deserve 4 teams just as much, or they have 4 teams in and the SEC has 4 teams, god dang well that if
you can only play who's on your schedule.
Well, I get that.
Anybody else.
So let's make the argument for BYU. Let's make the argument for Colorado. You can only play who's on your schedule, man.
Because they went and screwed up and lost the top end of the conference, Eric. That's what happened.
I understand that.
They
but
should
listen,
not have let them walk, and they let them walk.
I understand that, but you're propping up a Penn State team that could just as easily get boat raced in the playoff as Colorado, as Iowa State, as Kansas State.
So in other words, what you're saying is
Ole Miss or somebody to the woodshed and they beat the crap out of them.
Oh, but you know what?
Nothing.
Maybe BYU takes Ole Miss or Penn State. Yeah, exactly. We can maybe this crap all day long.
So what you're trying to say then is that it's all about the money. Because
hell yes, we should have 6 SEC teams in there.
Think that the committee comes out with their top 12, and there's 4 Big Ten teams in there. That they're only putting 4 Big Ten teams in there because it's a money grab. Because if they're supposed to be putting the best teams in this tournament,
there should be 6 SEC teams.
You're saying that there should not be 4 Big Ten teams in there then?
No. Do you really think Penn State, for example, is a really good team this year? Their offense is awful.
Here's John. This is Eric's favorite buddy. Big 12 champions shouldn't make the playoffs. Softest conference ever.
John, where were you a minute ago? I was talking good about Notre Dame, man.
Notre Dame, softest schedule ever.
I was going to say, John.
You can't come up with that and be a Notre Dame fan and act like you're.
Get John's opinion on, is Notre Dame worthy of being in the tournament?
Oh, absolutely.
We'll wait for his. And if they are worthy for the tournament, what signature wins do they have that makes him come to that conclusion?
But see, that's what I'm talking about. A team like Notre Dame, I mean, I get it. I understand. Fine. But why does a team like Notre Dame, who plays probably one of the softest schedules in the nation for a major team?
Well, they didn't used to. I mean, they've always played USC. They've always played Michigan. Well, I mean,
play Michigan State, all those teams when they were good. I mean,
and USC
used to be good. Michigan was always good. They played a hell of a schedule back in the day when Lou Holtz was head coach.
Over the last 20 years, Stanford has been good. Stanford's terrible. Stanford's on their schedule. Over the last 20 years, Florida State has been a quality program. Nobody knew they were going to take a nosedive into Shitsville and be terrible. They put those guys on the schedule. USC is traditionally one of the best programs in the country and tough as hell. They're not good.
Especially, Michigan
They put
State
Texas
is
A&M
another
on the
example.
schedule, an SEC school. So, I mean, out of the gate, first week of the year, I don't want to sit here and be a Notre Dame apologist, but that's tougher schedule than most of the Big 12 schedules. Tell me it's not. Now, these schedules are made 7-8 years in advance.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
But when we're doing the playoff this year, whether it's made 7 or 8 years in advance, can't we say that, well, they didn't really play anybody this year and they refused to go into a Power 5 conference, so tough luck?
Well, when they go to Power 2 conference, they better get in a conference because they're going to be screwed.
Chris makes a good point. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the very last part. Independent Notre Dame scared to play in a Power 5. If they don't want to play in a Power 5, they don't deserve to ever be in the playoffs.
I agree.
I don't think they're afraid. I think they're locked into their tradition. And their
but they're gonna have to do something.
Playing Navy, Army, those go back to the 30s and the 40s when Army and Navy were the best teams in the country. And USC, they play those teams every single year. And they don't want to give that up.
But that's their problem then.
At some point, Notre Dame's going, and here we are again, guys. I keep going back to what Feinbaum said a year ago when all this was announced. How in the hell does the Division II and Division III for 30 or 40 years have this figured out with 16-team playoff? Yet here we are at Division I, still can't quite get it right. Yes, we're heading in the right direction with 12 teams. But I don't know why when they expanded, they just didn't go to 16 teams and be done with it.
Because 16 teams, here's the deal. 16 teams, what you could have done with 16 teams is you could have said, okay, we're going to take the top 4 SEC or 5. Whoever you deem as the toughest conference, obviously, I think we all agree it's the SEC. You could take the top 5. You could take the top 4 of the Big 10, the top 2 out of the ACC, the top 2 out of the Big 12. What's that put it at? 13?
We got an independent.
You got independent 14 or 2, 14, 15, and you got a Mountain West team 16. You would eliminate everything that we're talking about. Because nobody's ever going to say that the Big 12 deserves more than the SEC or whatever.
Eric,
what's that?
I mean, here's the deal. For years and years and years, the top 2 teams, they put against each other for the national championship. Then we said, oh, my God, if we could just make it bigger and make it 4 teams, then there'd never be a bitch anymore about who deserved to be there. So now we go from 4 to 12, and we're saying, oh, God, now there's no excuses.
I agree.
And in year 1,
12 is too many.
Saying that they need more than 12. Why don't we just make the football season till April?
Well,
at some point in time, man, you got to cut it off.
You are right about that. You are right about that. But the problem is, in the system we're talking about right now, they're talking about a 3-loss team in 12 teams. So what a 16 team allows you to do is it allows you to say each conference has so many teams. The top conference, maybe it's the Big 10 one year. I don't know. They can figure that shit out. The top conference gets 5. The next conference gets 4. The next 2 conferences get 2. You would have it set, and that would be enough to cover. That would cover. I mean, I think that would cover all your bases. But the problem is they don't set anything here. So now it's like, well, I mean, we could have a 3-loss team out of the SEC make it. Well, if you're going to do that,
everybody happy.
But if you're gonna
No.
if you're gonna take a 3-loss team, then you just as well say, listen, just take the top 6 SEC teams, and have them play.
John makes my point exactly. We don't need any Rudy teams. Why can't it just be the 12 best teams?
Okay.
So we've knocked this around enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break to let Wild Sun get a little PR. We are going to come back and do our picks, and we're going to actually spend the fully allotted time in the NFL this time. We will be right back. Okay, Eric, you got your trigger finger ready?
Give me a minute and I will. You got to get that.
Let me get that off there. Hold on.
Take that off there. First game up.
Let me take that ticker off here quick too.
Got it. Okay.
Uh-oh. What
Where's
happened
Brett
to
at?
Brett? Oh, there he is. All
First game
right.
up.
We're into our pick segment. We're doing before we get started, we got one hell of a race going. We've got yours truly, Chad and Eric, all tied at the top at 71 and 46. So all three of us get to say we were the big dog this week.
Who's coming on strong? Who's coming on strong?
But I tell you what, you got
Chad.
You got
what?
Who's up to the big dog status?
Oh yeah, football Jesus.
Who
I believe it wasn't
up a 6-game lead?
It
At
wasn't
one
too
time,
long
you
ago.
were 6 games ahead of me.
I know it, right?
You've
I
been
wasn't
doing
too
nothing
long
but
ago,
trashing
Brett.
me all year.
Trashing you? How have I been trashing you, football Jesus?
Oh my God! Listen,
Hey,
We was just,
I
we
was
just
8 under 500, and now I'm what, 11, 12 over 500.
say Brett
Listen.
was at 500 or below not that long ago.
Brett, we're just
Brett's
a
on his way back. He's 11.
Eric, you know what's been my downfall? It's called karma. Because I've been making fun of Brett so much, I deserve to lose all these games.
See, that's bullcrap because I made fun of Brett all UFL season last year.
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me. That's why karma goes after me.
Because I walked away
Football
with
Jesus.
last year.
Karma doesn't go after football Jesus.
No, you can't.
Hey,
You've been
I
coming
should have
after
worn
me.
my glasses. I should have worn my glasses again tonight.
Okay. First game out of the chute. Now, keep in mind, we always pick hard games, but this week was tough because you talk about a crappy college schedule. The SEC decided this was the weekend to play, Withrop and
Yeah.
Morningside School of Dentistry and all that kind of stuff. What in the hell's that?
Mercer.
Golly. Okay, Texas. Number 3, Texas. 13.5-point favorites going into Arkansas. Arkansas is 5-4. Texas is 8-1. Who wants to go first?
Texas.
Texas. Sorry, Russell.
Yeah, give me Texas.
We got a Texas clean sweep because I am taking Texas as well. Henry's got Texas. John's got Texas. But I'm telling you, it would be just like Arkansas to pin
Yeah.
one on them.
Can't rule out the Hogs at home, but yeah. It is what
Okay,
it
our
is.
second game. Number 17, Clemson, 10-point favorites at 7-2. Traveling to Pittsburgh, who's also 7-2. Pittsburgh is unranked.
I can't go against Dabo and Clemson again. It cost me with the Hokies last week.
Yeah, give me Clemson.
Give me Dabo and Clemson.
Me too.
I've got Clemson.
We got another clean sweep. See, that's the problem when you have to pick these games.
It is so much more fun when we got the 2-point games, the 3-point
it's so
games.
much better when they're pick 'em and stuff. But anyway, so we got Utah, 4-5, traveling to Boulder, Colorado to go against the Colorado Deion Sanders Buffaloes, number 18, and they are 10-point favorites at 7-2.
Colorado.
I am taking Colorado as well.
Yeah, give me the Buffs.
Prime time.
Prime time. God, I miss Chris Berman doing that so much. Prime time. Prime time.
We got John and Henry both taking Colorado as well. So far we got clean sweeps. So now we got the surging Florida Gators at home, 4-5 now, with LSU coming to town with their tail between their legs. Number 21 LSU's 4-point favorites at 6-3. Who you got?
Brett, who you got in this SEC showdown?
My heart says Florida, but my mind says LSU. So go Tigers.
I'll go Florida.
Look at Chad.
I was wanting to go Florida.
I'm going LSU.
I'm going LSU.
As am I.
There's your chance.
In all fairness, though, these two schools and these two fan bases hate each other. They have had some epic games in the last couple of decades, but LSU's got to be pretty beat up after what Alabama did to them in Baton Rouge last week. If this was going to be another game, they would drop it. I mean, but again, they can't. Kelly can't afford to lose another game, but that means nothing.
No, that beatdown that he took in prime time, that's
all the articles I've read this week.
Oh boy.
He is getting
annihilated.
Fury coming down on him.
Yes. 100%.
Henry and Debbie both say LSU as well. Debbie knows that. Here's Debbie's comment, Brett. I know how much that pains you.
I ain't got no problem with Florida. I got a problem with that's one of the evil three with Alabama fans. But
okay, our next game, Arizona
should be
State.
fun.
The Arizona State Sun Devils at 7-2, traveling to number 20 K-State, who's also 7-2. K-State is 9-point favorites. Saturday night primetime game. I got Kansas State.
I have Kansas State because I don't think this is going to be a 9-point game. Arizona State's playing better, but it is at Kansas State. If this is at Arizona State, I might lean the other way. This is going to be a close game.
Yeah, give me the Wildcats.
Wildcats at home.
Next game, Tennessee,
and
number 6.
Let's see. John
yeah.
says Arizona State. Henry stays with us with K-State.
I'm telling you, it's going to be a close game, and you could be right. But I'm giving Kansas State the nod because it's at home for them.
So we got Georgia off a very tough loss, dropping to number 11. They're 10-point favorites at home with number 6 Tennessee coming to town at 8-1. Another primetime Saturday night game.
I don't think Nico is going to play with Tennessee, and I just took a gander at the injury report. Both teams this time of year is going to be a little banged up. If it was a neutral site or in Knoxville, I would lean towards Tennessee, but it's not. I think Georgia's that point spread. If Nico's not playing, Georgia will probably cover that rather easily.
That's a point spread that I think I would take right now, just on the possibility that he doesn't play.
Yeah, I'm going with Georgia.
I am too.
I got Georgia.
I got Tennessee.
Whoa.
I don't always go Pat, Eric.
I think he's
take all the same.
I think Chad's a little he's a little shook right now.
Yeah.
Debbie says Georgia. John says Tennessee. Henry says Tennessee. So you got a little love on your side there, Chad.
Yeah.
Tennessee's got a defense now. They've got a defense.
How many upsets have you taken this year, Eric? 1, 2?
Well, here's the deal. I must have taken some because we're tied.
Because you were taking safe picks and I was taking upsets.
Oh my God.
Hey, we need a petty meter. A petty meter. Yeah. We need to download that in the app before you go up.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Here's the last pick of the college segment. We got the surging 3-6 Kansas Jayhawks traveling to BYU, number 7 BYU. BYU is 9-0 and have been established as 3.5-point favorites.
What the hell is with that spread?
Who does BYU have next week?
That's what I thought. You got the team that's undefeated, leading the Big 12. They're playing a team that's 3-6 at home, and they got 3.5-point spread, and that's it.
Who does BYU play next week?
Arizona State.
Yeah, that line.
I'm taking BYU. I think that point spread's a bunch of crap, but Vegas is wealthy for a reason.
They're getting that point spread because of what happened last week. That's why.
I got BYU.
As do I.
BYU.
Is that a clean sweep? Let's see. We got
it is.
Debbie has BYU, I think. John has BYU. Henry, BYU. Yeah. So that's a clean sweep. So that, my friends, is going to do it for the college segment. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, it is time.
NFL time.
For the NFL.
Prime time. Prime time.
We will be back.
And that's the bottom line. Want a war, you're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top. Oh, yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
So how does it feel to actually be on time once?
Jeez. The fact that we hit
are
the hour
actually
mark,
in our NFL second hour segment.
I'm
on the
shocked.
button.
Shocked.
Well, let's
Can't
not
believe
blow.
we nailed it. We nailed it.
It's all due to Big Ed.
So
Yep.
here we go, fellas. Here is Ed's NFL Power Rankings for Week 11. And Brett will be back with us shortly, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. We got Kansas City still in the number one spot. I don't know, man. They're gonna be the man till somebody beats the man. So they're staying at number one. Are they playing the best football in the NFL right now? I would say no, but there's something to be said for what are they now? 15-0 the last 15, and
I don't get it.
Two-time Super Bowl champs. They seem to have the formula every week to pull out a win. So until they lose, they got a big test this weekend coming in Buffalo, who I got moving up to number 3. Detroit stays at number 2. Detroit's got a mini bye. They got a tough Jaguar team this week.
Didn't Minnesota struggle with Jacksonville this week?
Yeah, Minnesota is the first team since 2006 to win a game without scoring a TD and having 3 or more turnovers.
We'll put that on a plaque and hang it on the wall.
You should put that behind you, Ed.
Yeah. Hey,
You know,
you
it's
deserve
the
a
little
prize for
things.
that.
It's the little
It's
thing.
the little things you got to hang your hat on, baby. I mean, it's amazing how Minnesota just continues to fall. Of course, I can't say anything because they continue to fall down my rankings as well. But you just keep talking behind that big wall, Chad, until we can get Brett back on here again.
I was touting it as a big accomplishment, and you should have on the wall.
Yeah.
Hey, and right above that, you can just say Super Bowls 0-4, and you're gonna have that there too.
Yes.
I mean, there's only one other franchise who's
They're the first team since the
Go
70s who
0-4.
have been in 4 Super Bowls and lost them all.
That's right.
So then we got the Eagles at number 4. I got them moving the ladder rather quick. You know, it's funny. There was a lot of people dogging on Cooper DeJean at the beginning of the season. And now Cooper DeJean is leading the NFL in the least amount of yardage giving up per reception.
Who is dogging on Cooper DeJean?
Oh, when we were talking, we had our NFL discussion leading up to the beginning of the season and just when the season first started, there was a lot of people out there on social media that was calling him a bust because he wasn't getting much playing time.
You know,
but here we go. He's ranked in net passing yardage He's number one.
They're I
Return he
can.
had too.
What's that?
He had a hell of a punt return too.
Well, I can tell you this much. He again grew up about 12 miles south of me, a little bit more than that. That kid is a workhorse. That kid does not know how to fail. I guarantee you that kid has put in the time. You know, you see a lot of these big-time draftees, the Jamarcus Russells. Kyler Murray's been accused of it. They don't put the time in behind the scenes. I got news for you. If that kid fails, it's not because he didn't give every ounce that he had to it. He just doesn't know how to fail. He just doesn't. The Eagles absolutely, in my opinion, got a steal with that kid.
Well, the Eagles nailed both their picks. Both their cornerbacks that they drafted in this draft this year are killing it.
What I think Cooper DeJean is going to prove, as if he didn't prove enough at Iowa, and to me, I don't understand how he fell, even to where he did. I know you're like, oh, well, he's second round. I still understand how he fell there.
We know how he fell.
Well, yes. But, I mean, you know, you would think coming out of Iowa, you'd be like, well, Iowa's known for defense. They send a lot of defenders to the NFL. He is going to be – I know it's only a second round. It's very difficult to say, but he's going to be one of the steals of the draft. I mean, the kid's amazing.
And he dropped.
And he dropped.
On draft day, he was projected to go in the middle of the first round somewhere.
You know,
he went into the second round before he was picked up.
I'll tell this story real quick. So my oldest son played football against Cooper DeJean. He was actually on the same field with him. And his senior year, he made what they call the Shrine Bowl here. And my brother-in-law says to me, he goes, because my nephew was playing in the Shrine Bowl for a bigger school in the state. And he says to me, he goes, so, I mean, seriously, what's the deal with this DeJean kid? And I said, you know, we're sitting there in the stands, and I said, you see that kid? He's got that helmet on from that big school, and he's got that helmet on from that big school, and that kid's got the helmet on from that big school. I don't know those kids, and there's a better than outside chance that when this game is over, I won't know those kids. But I can promise you one thing. When this game is over, everybody sitting in the stands here will know who Cooper DeJean is. And guess who the MVP of the Shrine Bowl was? With all those big school kids and all that stuff, they had their Hawkeye gloves on or their Iowa State gloves or this school's gloves, whatever. The MVP of the Shrine Bowl was Cooper DeJean. He gets to Iowa, all he does is excel. There's no reason to believe that when he gets to the NFL that he's not going to excel. The Eagles got an absolute freaking steal with Cooper DeJean.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Be quiet, everybody. We're bringing Brett on now. So
we're talking about Brett.
Careful, no.
my nephew played basketball against him, and my nephew is when they kept rolling the highlights of Cooper playing basketball at during the draft. Yeah, there was my nephew standing there as Cooper went flying by him and dunked the ball.
So when they played the other night,
I paused it and I took a picture of it and sent it to my nephew and said, "Hey man, you made the NFL draft." And he goes, "It's not funny, Uncle Chad."
Yeah. So when they played the other night, they were showing during the Eagles game, they were showing basketball highlights of Cooper DeJean. Yeah. Well, some of the highlights they showed were right here in my hometown gym.
He's a whale of an athlete.
Oh,
move to your left a little bit there, dude. There you go.
You know, the thing about a DeJean, and you could say this, I get, you know, a lot of athletes, but you know, he just has tools that I never had. Speed. You know, his jumping ability, he's only 6'3", you know, I mean, let's just say 6'1" on the high side, but he can jump out of a gym.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's just certain God-given gifts that he was given that he took to the next level. There's a lot of people that are given a lot of God-given gifts and they totally piss it down their leg. That kid did not do that.
I bet the Iowa basketball coach wished he would have had him
Oh,
too.
and you know what the big knock on him was? This is hilarious. The reason he went football was because the big knock was, well, he doesn't pass the eye test for a Division I basketball player. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Ed.
So
Sorry,
I got
my DeJean soapbox.
Philly seems to be getting things rolling now. I got them moved up to number 4. Baltimore, I had them drop a couple spots, and they might keep dropping because they got the offense, but man, their defense isn't happening. And we all know, we've seen Baltimore in the playoffs the last 2 or 3 years. What happens with their offense in the playoffs? They just, for whatever reason, Lamar can't put it together on offense. And if they don't have their offense, they have no shot in the playoffs. So I got them dropping down to 5. Pittsburgh, I got at 6. I moved them up. That was a painful move up because I just wasn't seeing it. But the more weeks go by, the more you're starting to see old Russell Wilson look more like his Seattle days. So we'll see where that can take him. And they continue to add on a wide receiver. So, you know, what I thought they were inept on offense isn't so much the case now. They've got some weapons. San Francisco's getting healthy. And when they're getting healthy, they're making their climb as well.
And a little FYI, for all those Brock Purdy haters out there, by all accounts, he only had 353 yards and 2 touchdowns this week. So move along.
Washington, they let one get away from them. Have them dropping a little bit. They got a big game coming up as well against Philly tomorrow night, actually. Minnesota, I dropped them down to 9. I wanted to go farther than that, but they beat Green Bay, they beat Houston, and they beat Houston pretty handily. So I left them at number 9, but Sam frickin' Darnold, I about had a heart attack. My wife looked at me and started jawing at me during the game, and I had to kindly respond because I was.
Did he have 3 picks?
Well, we'll talk about Sam Darnold in our hot topics because he's one of the.
That's right. We do have him in hot topics, so we better save that.
We'll let that one go. But like I said, Minnesota's the first team since 2006 to win a game without scoring a touchdown and had 3 or more turnovers. So
wow,
they are added to another very elite list.
That's an amazing accomplishment.
Green Bay, I got at number 10.
Wait, do you think they'll get an ESPY for that?
Could be, or else they'll get a punchline out of Peyton Manning, maybe.
Right.
And who do I got at number 11? Could there be a guy on our panel that was touting them before the season even started? They have made their way up to number 11 on the NFL Power Rankings.
I'm starting to get scared that Arizona may actually win 9 games.
They laid the wood to the Jets this last week. They made Aaron Rodgers look pretty bad, I got to say.
Do you know what the beauty of Arizona is? And this is
wait. There's something beautiful.
No, well, I'm just saying the potential they could win 9 games.
Okay.
The beauty of Arizona is this.
All right.
How they played last year was like dumpster fire-ish. Pretty close. The reason why I've always gravitated more toward the NFL is because your team can be really bad, and when the new year arrives, it's a new year. Who knows what happens? They could come out of nowhere. It isn't like college where you can look at the top 6 teams. Outside of those,
So you're saying you shouldn't?
I'm saying there's a chance they could win 9 games, and you may be right. And I'm shocked.
Boy, that fucking hurt, didn't it?
That did hurt, but I'm just throwing it out there right now. Arizona could win 9 games.
So
Oh man,
Kyler Murray is playing like he's not playing Xbox anymore, like he's actually studying and trying to be an NFL quarterback. It's crazy.
tell your wife to go grab you a bucket because you might have to throw up after that.
Oh, that took a lot to say, but you.
for all the accolades that Houston got before the season started, I got to think that 6-4 is a major disappointment for them at this juncture of the season. The LA Chargers, I got number 13. They are 6-3. Who would have thought? But
Head coach.
I got to get my division standings out that I predicted before the season started, because I think that there's some of these teams I'm going to be hitting on here. But Atlanta, LA, and Tampa Bay, you could throw them in a bowl and draw those. I mean, Tampa Bay, talk about a hard luck team. I think they're a very quality team.
Gosh.
Losing Evans and losing Goodwin just killed them.
You know, the bad part about Tampa Bay is this. You know, when Baker Mayfield came into the league with the Browns and he was doing his commercials and he was being the Baker, couldn't stand him. Rooted for him to lose. The beautiful thing about him in Tampa Bay now is I actually root for the guy.
Yeah, there is team in the NFL that I think would complain about him being their quarterback.
No, I think that Baker has turned himself around. He obviously at some point in time, Baker Mayfield had to take a look in the mirror and say, I got to do something about myself.
I think he just got out of Cleveland. That's why.
But here's the deal in Cleveland.
I think he's the same. He just got out of Cleveland.
No, but Chad, you remember him in Cleveland. Like he was a finger pointer. He was I'm doing commercials. Like I'm Baker Mayfield. Like I'm the one that's good. Cleveland is the one that's dragging me down.
I think if somebody's gonna pay you millions of dollars to do commercials, you're gonna do commercials.
Well, I get that. But what I'm saying is I don't see that Baker in Tampa Bay.
I think from Texas Tech to Oklahoma to Cleveland to the Rams to Tampa Bay, I think he's been a team guy. I think he's been a quality leader. I think he puts the team before himself. He plays hurt. He gives everything. He gives 100% on every single down he's playing in. I think he's a gutsy dude, and I think he's been a heck of a leader the whole time. It's just, I mean, when you get drafted to Cleveland and you get put in that crap show, you get what you get.
So poke holes in it. Where am I wrong?
Well, just real quick, back to the Vikings. I just see here McCarthy had a second knee surgery.
Yeah.
Ed.
I guess now better than
No
ever.
bueno.
Right?
That's
Better
no
than
bueno.
ever. I guess to have it now than decide in the offseason you need another one.
Yeah, I suppose you're right on that. But I mean, here's what I feel like the top 3 teams. I think you have the top 3 teams right in the NFC. I mean, I think and we'll talk about the Lions and Eagles later, but San Francisco, they start getting healthy. I realize they're 5-4, but they still might end up being they might be in the conversation like they're the team to beat again. But right now I'm going to say Lions and Eagles. I agree with you. Kansas City to be the man, you got to beat the man. I don't know how the heck they're winning these games. I don't. They can look
I don't either.
So ugly. I mean, Denver, for the most part, did everything they should have to win that game. And then some of the flukiest deals. I mean, what is the percentage of field goals getting blocked in the NFL, Chad? Do you know?
And I have no idea.
Got to be less than 5%, 3%.
It's got to be less than. It's probably 2%, 3% of field goals get blocked, and somehow, I mean, if you watch that play, like, of course, a lot of the conspiracy theorists on NFL is rigged, which you can't tell me that a whole locker room full of alpha males is going to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go out and we're going to get beat by Kansas City tonight. It's going to be the worst way ever. Now, do I think that officiating can be a little skewed? I've seen it and I can prove it. But as far as the alpha male thing and the NFL is scripted, those players that come out and say it, they're looking for clicks, they're looking for attention. It's not.
In my opinion, the Kansas City defense is playing fantastic. They're balling out. The offense, I think they've gotten to the point where they're gotten so arrogant that they get too cute too much. They don't have Rice. They don't have Tyreek Hill. They need to run some solid, simple plays to get the offense going instead of running all these cutesy, fun, crazy little plays that they make up in practice, which is great. And you can do that when you're clipping off 30 points a game, but not when you're begging to win a game scoring 16.
But here,
I think Andy Reid is a offensive genius, if there is such a thing. But he's got to quit smelling his own farts, man. He's got to run some plays.
Here's where I talk about NFL darlings, though, because if I heard one talk show this week, I've heard 5 of them. You know damn well that if it was any other team that blocked that kick, it would have been like, oh, well, yeah, they were lucky. You know, sometimes that happens. Yeah, but yet, when Kansas City does it, oh, my God, that's just how head and shoulders they are above the rest of the league, because they found a weakness on the offensive line, and they could have exploited it in the first half, but no, they waited until there was an opportunity to win the game, and then they did it. And I'm sitting here thinking, do you really think that they knew in their mind that they could block any field goal they wanted to? They just chose the very last one play of the game because that was the play that, they honestly gave Kansas City all the accolades that they planned that was absolutely.
They saved it. They saved it.
Like, oh my God.
I watched a couple of minutes of the Kelsey podcast the other day, and Travis was clearly upset about how poorly the offense is playing and how he's like, we're going to turn it around, everybody. It's going to happen. We're going to get this offense going. They know they're playing terrible. And I don't know what it is. I'm just telling you, I think they need to get up there and they need to run some.
Did you hear that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce's homes got broken into?
Yeah, I saw that.
They are thinking that it could be organized crime.
What?
That had a hand in that. And so I don't think it was this last week's game. I think it was the weekend before. But anyway, yeah, both their houses got hit.
And Guido and Vito are upset because they lost too much money back.
Probably they must have had a little bit too much money on the over or something. I don't know.
Well, if the over is in most of the Kansas City games, if the over is 35, then you shouldn't have been betting the over anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
All right, so I'd say that's enough of the rankings. Let's get into topics, man. We actually have time.
We've got some time for some hot topics. And since we've already touched on it, let's bring the first topic in. Let me take the ticker down. And let me bring the first hot topic in. We've already touched on it a little bit.
Yes,
Is
I'll
it
go
time?
first. I'll go first. Yes, he should have been benched. I was screaming at halftime that they need to pull him. They need to pull him. And, our backup is Nick Mullins. So he definitely doesn't scare you. But I tell you what, when they had 3 drives in that game, 2 in the first half and 1 in the beginning of the third quarter, where they basically drove the whole field. In the third quarter, they took 10 minutes off the clock in their drive. And when they get in the red zone, to throw a pick is so demoralizing to an offense. And he did it 3 times Sunday. 3 times. And you know what they say about backup quarterbacks? If they come in that week when the other team hasn't had a chance to watch film or anything like that, they can be effective. I think Nick Mullins could have come in and moved the ball as well. But you just can't. When you have a quarterback that's continuously throwing stupid picks, and then you come in front of the microphone and you say, I have all the confidence in the world. I never thought about pulling him, all this kind of stuff. Dude, you got to change the narrative. Like I've always said with Minnesota, you got to change the narrative. You don't think that locker room – did you see Justin Jefferson in the end zone on that third pick? He just shook his head and started walking out.
Yeah, but for our viewing audience, for the 6,000-7,000 plus.
I have always called him Sam frickin' Darnold.
Oh, whoa.
The reason I started saying Caesar Sam.
Just a reminder.
3 Chicago ding-dongs.
Just a reminder.
Was driving up the frickin' wall.
For all of our fans that watch this show on a regular basis, do you remember how the show used to start out? We always had to look at this crap right here. And Ed was all on board.
And
Sam Caesar Darnold. And we had to hear the skull. Like, you know what?
Happened? And then what happened?
I don't want to hear it.
Our panelists here start a back office conspiracy. That is the reason why there may have been 1 or 2 people not watching our show. So just to make you ding-dongs happy, I quit doing it. Jeez.
Because here's the deal,
one thing's for sure, this is still a great number. I don't care what you say.
I agree.
Great number.
Because he also played for the Bears and he was good for the Bears too. But here's the problem. Sam Darnold
is Sam Darnold.
Is there's
the narrative.
In Coach Green's
Sam Darnold. Why do you go into a season hanging your hat on that as plan A?
No, listen.
It wasn't plan
No,
A.
it was not plan A. Whoa. Back up.
McCarthy went down, they had no other option.
Right, but take a breath. Take a breath. In Coach Green's immortal words, he is who he thought he was. Yeah. But here's the deal. Minnesota did not go into the season believing Sam Darnold was their dude. I truly believe that J.J. McCarthy, maybe after the first couple games, for example, maybe at the start of the season, because he got hurt, so we don't know what they're really planning to do. J.J. McCarthy was their dude. I was never high on J.J., but I've certainly never been high on Sam Darnold. They were forced due to the injury, and then, of course, Chad mentioned that he's had another knee surgery, so we don't know how bad. I hope it's not bad because
I hope it's not bad.
Good kid, whatever. But they were forced into putting Sam Darnold into that position. Now, to use what you've always said, Ed, when you have a backup guy that teams are, whatever, you're going to get some legs out of him. The problem for Minnesota is, I think, and I will tell you, You are going to be a playoff team because you got legs out of him when your schedule was the toughest. Now, you are so lucky you were playing Jacksonville this week, and you got a W.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
A dub is a dub, they say.
A dub is a dub in the NFL. I don't care what it looks like, because next week can be really great. Next week can be really bad. The W is the W. But Sam Darnold is who every one of us,
Except for Ed.
Oh, God. You guys saw me on draft night when we found out Sam Darnold was being signed by Minnesota. Don't tell me I was on board with it.
I think you coined the term Sam frickin' Darnold.
You're damn right.
No,
Every
he's got
time I hear a podcast out there, and believe me, there are a couple that I've heard where they refer to him as Sam frickin' Darnold, and right away I say to myself, you copycat MFers. Every
Yes.
time I say it. But here's what's even more alarming. You know what I found out this week? That Kevin O'Connell's getting pressure to sign
Colin Kaepernick.
Ryan Tannehill.
Ooh. Well, here's the problem. No, stay with me here. I'm gonna try to make it make sense.
Nick Mullins.
I don't know if I can, but I'm gonna try to make this make sense.
No, there's no making sense.
And for those of you watching, maybe you can help me make this make sense.
Ryan Tannehill needs to go back
Well,
and play
make it
wide
quick
receiver like he
because
did
I want
for
to hit
2
a bunch
years
of
at A&M.
topics today.
Well, here's the deal. Minnesota has the weapons. They have the weapons.
Sure,
That's why
whatever
it's so
you get.
frustrating.
I know, and I would
We
say
went
that.
into the season with Sam frickin' Darnold. With
But
everything
here's the
this
deal.
team was.
So if you look at Sam Darnold's track record, the Jets, they're a dumpster fire. You can't blame that on him.
I'm going on a bathroom break. I'll be right back.
Okay. You've got Sam Darnold in Carolina. Dumpster fire. You can't blame that on him. Now, the Sam Darnold that was in San Francisco, he was in for a couple of games when Purdy got hurt. Did not do that bad. So I'm not blaming Minnesota for giving him the shot. If it was anybody else, you'd be like, well, but since it's Minnesota, you're thinking, well, this sucks because it's my team. But if it was anybody else and Sam Darnold started them off at 7-2, they might be sitting there saying, God, we got 7-2 out of him. He is who we thought he was. It only hurts worse for you because it's your team. Ryan Tannehill could be. I mean, look at Ryan Tannehill's record. Where was he?
You got a guy sitting below you that looks like he's a.
Listen, I said, Chad, I was stretching this. I'm trying to stretch this to keep Ed off of blood pressure medication.
Than hear this stretched anymore.
Well, what I'm saying is,
because your hammy's ready to explode.
Right. So maybe I am stretching a little bit, but maybe you bring Ryan Tannehill in and you stretch a 4-2 stretch out of him. I don't know. I just know that with all the talent and Minnesota has a good offensive line. If Darnold can't get it done with what he's got and he's starting to regress into the Sam Darnold that we thought he was, he's never going to be an NFL quarterback.
Ed,
nothing but a backup. Nothing but a backup.
Ed, just be happy you got 7-2 out of him so far. Be happy.
Yeah, I'm a Bears fan. I'd take 7-2 all day long.
Okay, let me
me
finish. Get a blanket tonight, roll up in it, and just think 7-2 as you fall asleep and start snoring and shaking the roof off.
Well,
7-2.
You got 7-2 out of it.
500.
Let's move on to the next subject.
If they go 500 the last 8 games, that's 11 wins. That gets them So anyway, next topic.
Hey, every one of us except for you, of course, we all said Minnesota would win 4 to 5 games this year. Hey, you to the good.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're good, bud. I wouldn't worry
and
about
we
it.
said the Bears would win between what? All of us said 7 to 9 wins.
7 to 9
We
wins.
might end up with 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah.
Ed, the problem is you just got teased for 9 weeks. You got teased.
Yeah.
Like, "Ooh, we're gonna get you some." That hot cheerleader just kept rubbing your thigh and rubbing your thigh. She'd go up a little higher, and you're like, "This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen."
Yes.
And then all of
I'm the man.
then all of a sudden, she
Wait.
fucking
We're not
pours
very
it
good.
in your head and
Oh.
walks away.
Then all
Wait. She just slapped the quarterback of the high school team. Damn it. Yeah. Exactly right.
No, she said that'll be $500.
You started making out with your best friend. All right.
Okay,
In week In week 5, when we said Minnesota was going to be we didn't see anybody stop in Minnesota. You were thinking, oh, it's going to be the year. Captain of the cheerleaders, blah 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 blah, and now you're like, bum bum bum.
Okay, so now before we go to the next segment, let's do a little intro.
The Bears. The Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. The Bears.
Bears.
The Bears.
Okay, Eric, take it away.
Okay.
No, it's more like the Bears.
The answer to this question.
Well, tell everybody what the question is.
Well, why is Caleb Williams regressing? And I will tell you the answer to this question is easy. Because the McCaskies still own the Chicago Bears.
3 Bears fans as I
And they have a really terrible inability to hire coaches. If you start with one of the biggest mistakes that they ever made was when they fired Lovie Smith in a 10-6 season where we didn't make the playoffs at 10-6. That is where it started. Then you can go to the John Foxes, the Mark Trestmans, the Matt Eberfluses.
Hey, we need Mark Trestman calling our plays right now.
Well, but what I'm saying is this. If you look at Ed's top teams, what is a common theme that you see with a lot of those top teams?
quarterback.
Okay. Quarterback.
Defense.
Good coach.
Good
Defense.
coaching.
And defense.
Okay. Listen.
We've got one. We've got one.
I understand that, but a good defense is not going to make that happen. A good offense isn't solely going to make it happen. If you have the coaching, you may not have the best defense, but your defense is going to be 10, 11. If you have the good coaching, your offense may not be number 1, but it might be 8, 9. And you combine all these things together with the good coaching staff, and here you are. What the Bears have failed to do is they have failed to connect all of those dots together. And I'll leave this for Chad, but when it comes to hiring coaches, they hire all these guys that are like, I mean, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's like the coaches that
everybody's leftovers.
Yes,
they've done threw them out in the garbage.
They threw them out in the garbage, or they look like the guy that probably got his tail kicked in high school, you know, in the playground, and all, those kind of guys where it's like, what are we doing here? Like they refuse to go out and make that splash.
I was just going to say splash higher. Yeah.
I would much rather have, like, I was furious when they did not sign Cliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator. Why? Because he had a connection.
Look at Henry's comment.
You know, he had a connection to what we were trying to set up. And here it is. Now, Henry, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll turn over to Chad because I know Chad has some insight on this too.
9 times.
Henry, here's the problem. If you've watched any of the games, okay, and I've watched every single one of them painfully. If you've watched every single game, you understand one thing. Our routes, I can't even blame the offensive line because there are a lot of times where he has 2.5 to 3 seconds to throw. But if you watch the routes, give an example, the Patriot game, they blocked for 3.5 seconds and he got sacked. They showed downfield 4 routes, every single one of them covered. Why? Because it seems like if it isn't outside of the hash marks or 20-plus yards down the field, the Bears don't have routes. The Bears don't run routes that way.
It's just so vanilla, and we talked about it with these young guys like Bo Nix and him. And you know, the only advantage Daniels has got, he's got a top 5 deep ball in the NFL right now. I would hot route slant their ass play after play. You remember what Aaron Rodgers used to do to the Bears when we'd play the Tampa 2 or Brett Favre? They pop up, slant, pop up, other way, slant.
Get the ball
I
out
would
of his
throw
hands.
so many damn slants, and then you do it out and up or a slant and go, and you know.
But Brett, here's the problem. And then I'm going to turn it over to Chad because Chad has good insight on this too, as a Bears fan. Brett, here's the problem. The offensive line does not grade out as bad as Henry's comment. And what I mean by that is when they grade offensive line, how much time did the quarterback have to throw before he got sacked? In some cases, it's 3+ seconds. So then automatically people want to say, oh, he holds the ball too long. That's a natural reaction. Chad and I have had discussions about this. But when you dig deeper and you start looking at the actual routes they are running, it's atrocious. There is zero scheme to getting Caleb successful. There is no, and Brett mentioned it, there's no slanting. What? None of you have coached football at any level, am I correct? Other than maybe little kids football. As a high school coach, do you know what the most difficult routes to cover are? Crossing routes over the middle. Do you know why? Because it takes a lot of discipline when you're in between the safety and the linebacker, or when the linebackers drop and you're in between the rush and the linebacker, for the linebackers to communicate either behind or in front of, if they're in a zone, passing them off. And understanding in the communication, understanding where your drops are at, things like that. The Bears and the Patriot game was the worst. Their scheming is terrible. And here's one last example before I give it to Chad. The Patriots. This isn't about the Bears. This is the Patriots. This is what I'm talking about, the scheme. The Patriots ran a bunch set on the goal line, like the 2-yard line. Receivers tied in. Can't remember. I think it might have been a trips bunch, but they might have had. Anyway, the end of the line, the receivers on the end of the line. He blocks. They run. Everybody comes down. They stop him at the 1-yard line. What do the Patriots do? They look at that, and they saw the entire Bears defense go like this in. So what do? They take the offense and they flip it. Same thing. Now the wide receiver's on the end of the line. I could see it coming. He blocks. As soon as he reads the inside guy go in, he peels off, and it's a wide open touchdown. That is running one play. If you score, great. If you don't, you have now set something up for the Bears offense is nothing, and excuse my language, it is nothing but throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
So, Chad,
Take it away, Chad.
Before you say something, I almost feel like with you guys all blaming everything on coaching, that I need to bring a little balance into this discussion. And there's a very revered wide receiver that used to play for Aaron Rodgers.
No.
That come
Don't
out
even put
this
that
week,
up there.
and he made this
guy's an
comment
idiot.
about Caleb Williams. He said he's the worst quarterback drafted in the first round ever, period.
That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah, James Jones is nothing but a
You're
Green
gonna
Bay
have to
homer.
speak up, Chad, because you don't have near the passion that Eric is talking with.
Well, I'm just telling you that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's just stupid. That's not being able to see past the nose on your face. Now, as far as what I want to say about this situation is I've been a Bears fan since 1984. And I've always taken pride in the fact that they're the only original family-owned team in the NFL. At this point, I want the McCaskies to sell, and I want them to sell right now.
Right now.
Right now. So the problem is the McCaskies were burned by Ditka. Ditka was too much of a personality. They couldn't handle him, and they vowed to never, ever have a coach with a personality again. And they've lived up to that. They
100%.
they have never hired a coach with a personality since. So there's no chance that the Bears, first of all, they're not going to fire Eberflus at the end of the year because the McCaskies are too cheap. So the McCaskies, so if nobody knows, every team that's owned in the NFL is owned by some businessman who's made billions of dollars doing other things. The McCaskies only have this as a business.
Yep.
They only have this for an income. They bought the franchise for $100 and they've lived off of it ever since. The problem is that they won't go out and spend any money. So they're not going to fire Eberflus. He's got 2 years left on his deal. They're not going to fire him because they're not going to pay him for 2 years not to coach. So we're stuck with Eberflus for at least one more year because they may fire him with 1 year left. So, but they'll never hire a John Gruden. They'll never hire a Bill Belichick. They'll never hire anybody with any sort of strength or alpha male in them at all. They won't. Lovie Smith was a very good coach, but he was not a dominant personality. Now, as far as why the offense is so horrible this year, he mentioned Cliff Kingsbury. Eberflus brought him in to interview him. He was Caleb's offensive coordinator at SC last year. He coached Kyler Murray in Kyler Murray's first couple of years where he played fantastic. Say what you want about him. The guy can coach football. He might not be a head coach, but he can coach some offensive football. Eberflus brings him in and interviews him, and come to find out the reason he didn't hire him is because he was too much of an alpha male. He didn't want him in the same room. He was worried he was going to overshadow Eberflus, and Eberflus was going to look small. That is pathetic. That is the most beta male thing I've ever heard in my entire life, and it is weak and sad. And this franchise is going to just wallow in crappy mediocrity, if not worse, until somebody steps up and takes control of the situation. The sad part is they hired Eberflus because when they brought Ryan Poles on, they had already done this search, this gold medal search, and they gave him three options. And quite frankly, Poles screwed up. Eberflus was on one option. Dan Quinn was another option, who's coaching in the Redskins now, and I forget who the third one is, but he should have hired Dan Quinn because Eberflus is terrible. In all of these years, he may be the worst head coach we've ever had, and that is saying something. That is saying something. So Eberflus refuses to let Caleb throw the ball in the middle of the field at all. That's why we've only run like 2 or 3 slants this year is because Eberflus, it's too much of a dangerous pass. Might turn it over. When he talks to Caleb, all he talks about is negativity. Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over. And that's why all the passes are against the sideline, 20-plus yards down the field. He's got to hold the ball. There's nobody open because they're running down. They're all four running down the sidelines together, getting smashed against the sidelines. So there's nobody to throw the ball to.
And you have a tight end like Cole Kmet who could own the middle, and we refuse to do it.
We refuse to do it because Eberflus is a coward, and he blames it all on everybody else. He takes no ownership of his mountain of failures. And there's some guys at work that are Bears fans. This guy's like, but he's got the defensive side working. I don't care if he's got the defensive side working. He's supposed to coach the whole team, and he's not coaching the whole team.
Well,
nobody else wants to hear about this but us Bears fans. So we can move on to the next.
Here's the problem. Of the last 14 Super Bowl champions, do you know how many of them have had defensive coaches? Defensive head coaches that have won the Super Bowl in the last 14 years.
Bill Belichick. I don't know about any others.
Anyone? 2. That is why the Bears are going to continue to fail. You have to have some semblance of offense. You cannot rely. The NFL has changed. You can have that team, Kansas City. Now, they have Patrick Mahomes. So he's going to get you some things on offense that other teams can't. But you can't. The 85 Bears are done. They're dead. All right? That in 1 year, that'll be 40 years ago. You can't keep saying to yourself, we're just going to do defense here in Chicago. We're going to do defense here in Chicago, and we're not going to pay attention to offense. Let's get whoever because our defense is going to do this. And what is it? Where's it gotten us? We had Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs for how many years together?
Okay, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
We got to call this, man. Before you get on to your next hot topic, we're going to do a quick one. Cat wants to know everyone's opinion. Who do y'all think the Saints will hire for their new head coach?
Kingsbury.
Say it again, Brett.
Kingsbury.
I'm hoping that we fire Eberflus and the Bears hire Kingsbury, but
They ain't going to do it. He's a hot name, but they ain't going to do it.
They ain't gonna do it.
No, Cat, the Saints are known, with Drew Brees and all of that. I could easily see them hiring a Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think the Saints, and you guys could maybe help me out. I don't think the Saints are going to be into hiring a retread. Somebody who has been, in the league's been a head coach, maybe got fired, but I don't think they'll do that. They're going to look for offense. They're going to look for offense.
And the problem is they know at some point they're going to have to draft a quarterback because Derek Carr is just a middle-of-the-road quarterback.
Yes.
Everybody's hoping for Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is not going to go anywhere but someplace that's going to be fantastic, where he's not going to have to worry about interference from ownership. He's not going to want to worry about problems, and they're going to have a quarterback for him a young quarterback for him to build around. So everybody has this pipe dream of Ben Johnson is happy as a lark where he's at. He's a superstar. He's a top prospect, and he has his pick of whatever job he wants. And
I agree with
who else?
it's not going to be Chicago.
You know who else is going to be a hot name out there after this season? Brian
Belichick.
Flores. Brian Flores is going to be a hot name out there.
But here's the deal.
Defensive
I don't care about defensive coaches. Get him out of here.
Well, I hope nobody wants to hire him because I'd love to keep him on. So,
because defensive coaches have proven that it takes a really special defensive coach to find the right offensive guy to win a Super Bowl. You need to have an offensive coach. You need an offensive-minded coach. And Cat, Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, either one of those, if they were hired by the Bears tomorrow, I'd be happy. And if the Saints were to hire them, you should be happy. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to work out. I'm just telling you, those are two hot names. Now, Ben Johnson, he is going to have his pick. You know, the reason that I would be more apt to say that the only problem that the Saints have right now is if I'm Ben Johnson, and I'm being honest, if I'm Ben Johnson, I see what the Bears have, and I know they're 4-5. But if I see what the Bears have and I see what the Saints have, if I'm Ben Johnson, I have two options. I'm either staying where I'm at or I'm going to go to Chicago.
No way.
No, but what I'm saying is
He doesn't. First of all, Cat, you better hope whoever it is not your interim head coach, because that never works
right.
out.
That never works.
But Ben Johnson will not go to the Bears. The Bears are a mess of an organization.
Yes.
I mean, he won't go there.
If I'm Ben
Johnson
Johnson
back in Detroit next year.
Yes, but if I'm Ben Johnson, if it was between the Bears and the Saints, if I'm leaving Detroit,
I mean, if
and my options are the Bears and the Saints,
pick,
huh?
If you're holding a gun to his head and making him pick,
if I'm an offensive guy and I see the tools that the Bears have, and I see the tools that the Saints have,
I go to New Orleans if I'm here. I'm him because the
why? Olave's probably done.
Oh, the ownership group is easier to deal with. You're going to have a better chance.
Okay, we're going to get back on the Bears again. So here's the next topic.
Yeah, next topic.
Was Deebo Samuel's sideline altercation with the long snapper and kicker a punk move? Brett,
go ahead.
I mean, he's a wide receiver. He's a
Diva.
Yeah, I mean he's a weapon for San Francisco. I mean, is it really his place to go after the kicker or the long snapper? I didn't like it personally at all. I mean, I know things like that happen on the sidelines and more so in the locker room, but I didn't particularly care for it, to be honest with you.
Chad, was you going?
I think it's I tell you what, if I've seen anything that's not educational and hilarious, it's College Game Day, when they bring these people on who think kicking a field goal is easy, and they all get up there and they're offered hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's young athletic people, and they try and kick a field goal, and they can't come close. It is a joke. So can the long snapper or the kicker go out and do what Deebo Samuel does? No, but I guarantee you one thing: Deebo Samuel can't go out there and kick to a 55-yard field goal. He can't long snap that ball precisely as the long snapper does. So I think he needs to shut up and worry about his own job, and it shouldn't have came down to that. He should have made some plays early in the game that won the game. That's my opinion.
I just think I agree with what they're talking about. They kind of went into the fact that there's like a pecking order of things you just can and can't do. And you're never going to see a kicker or a long snapper walk up to the quarterback or to the running back or to the wide receiver and give them crap about the way they're performing. So, just because it's a wide receiver, he shouldn't have any more latitude than what anybody else. If you're a true team player, you win as a team, lose as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was dumb. And I don't know why Deebo Samuel felt the need to do that. However, I do like the fact that they were sitting, San Francisco sitting at 4-4. I do like the fact that at least Deebo Samuel is showing some fire, some, understanding of how important these games are. Do I think he needed to do what he did? No. I mean, what do you accomplish? Nothing. I mean, go rip on the kicker.
He accomplished making this into a thing. Now it's a distraction. Now he's in his punter's head or his kicker's head. That's none of that. None of that is positive. None of that helps them win another game.
Correct. And Kyle Shanahan came out today and he poo-pooed it. Said, "Hey, we talked about it in the building and everybody's on the same page. That's fine. I get it. At least from one perspective, you at least know Debo's still in. Like, I think Debo's time in San Francisco is probably limited, probably this year. I mean, and he wants to win. I love to see the fire. I just don't love to see it that way. I don't think going up to your kicker and saying, "Jesus, and the long snapper has to get him." I don't think it's that way. I love to see the fire. I just don't like to see it that way.
So here's one last topic, and I'll go first on this one and here it is. It is. Is it Deion Sanders' time in Dallas? I would sign him in Dallas tomorrow. If I'm Jerry Jones, and they all say, "Oh, Deion Sanders isn't going to go to Dallas because he's not going to want." Nobody's going to go to Dallas because of Jerry Jones's reputation. But Deion Sanders played in Dallas when Jerry Jones, of course, was the owner. No one's going to have instant locker room cred like Deion Sanders is going to have. Day one that he walks into that locker room, there ain't anybody in that locker room that was any better, could even sniff what Deion Sanders was in his prime, at least at this point. And I think that regardless of what Jerry Jones wants to say, I think Deion Sanders has the swagger to keep Jerry Jones at bay while he is able to coach the Dallas Cowboys. I think it would be a fantastic hire. Even though I'm not a Dallas fan, I'd sign him tomorrow.
Would it be a splash hire? Absolutely. Would it reinvigorate the Dallas Cowboy fan base? Absolutely.
You're damn right it would.
Would it alleviate the problems that Dallas has? I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
No.
The problems are their payroll, their contracts. He can't fix that. He can't fix the magic on that. They're not going to draft his son Shador as their quarterback. It's not going to happen. He's not going to go coach someplace where he's going to have to coach against his son. That's not going to happen. He's said numerous times he wants nothing to do with coaching in the NFL, and I believe him. He doesn't want to deal with the egos. He doesn't want to deal with he wants to have the say-so over these young men, and once he goes to the NFL, he can't do that. He can't bully these guys. He wants nothing to do with the NFL. So to me, it's a mute topic. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to happen.
I would agree with you, but I mean, Henry's right. Prime time.
Henry agrees. Henry agrees with your valiant host. Here is the last topic. We're going to do it real quick, and then we're into picks. The last one is, should Dallas throw Cooper Rush on the bench and once and for all put a healthy Trey Lance out there to see what he's got? Chad, this was your question. Take it away.
What do they got to lose? What are they? What are they? 2-10 or whatever? What are they? I mean, what the hell? Why not?
I think they're 3-6.
And they gave a 4th-round pick to get him. It's not like they gave him chump change, you know.
Give it a shot. What have you got to lose? Are you?
Might as well at this point.
I mean, it's stupid. See what you got. I mean, you can't. It's not like you can do anything. You can't get rid of Dak because you just gave him that obnoxiously stupid contract.
Dumb contract.
But give Trey Lance at least next year. They can't because I think Trey Lance's contract is up, so they couldn't even sign him. So even if he does well, so you might as well put him out there. Maybe he plays well enough where you can maybe trade him in the offseason or something. I don't know.
Here's the deal, and I agree with you, Chad, for that example right there. They could have gotten rid of Rush, and they didn't. They brought Trey Lance in, not sure why. But in order to get some capital back for what Ed said, the 4th-round pick, he either goes out there and performs, because you're not going to get rid of Rush. He either goes out there and performs, and you can maybe use him as some bait to somebody else, some other team that takes the chance, and you get some of that capital back, or you just know, what'd you say, Ed, this was his last year, Chad?
Yeah, this is last year. So they can't even trade him.
So you can, whatever. Yeah, so I guess they can't even trade him. So, maybe, I don't know. I'm just shocked at how highly Trey Lance came out and how poorly it's gone for him.
He got like 4 games. Seriously, this should be spoken of the biggest quarterback bust in NFL history. This should be right there with DeMarcus Russell and
Russell.
it should be
Ryan
right
Leaf.
Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, that's the one I was.
It should be
thinking.
right there with all of them. The draft capital that they traded to move up to get him. It's incredible. He can't even get on the field when the starter is hurt and they have no chance of making the playoffs.
It will forever be etched in my mind when the conversation leaked between Lynch and Shanahan, when Shanahan said, I think our best quarterback is our 3rd-string quarterback.
Yeah.
That had to be when Lynch heard that, knowing what they gave up for Lance and things like that. It had to be like a holy shit moment.
Here's the thing. They also brought in Will Greer and signed him this week.
Really?
Yes. I think they signed him to the practice squad.
All right. With that said, it's time to move on to our
Make the picks.
First game
one
that we're going to pick is tomorrow night. We've got Washington at 7-3, coming off a bad loss to Pittsburgh, right? They're going to Philadelphia. Philadelphia 7-2, and they are 3-point favorites. I will take Philadelphia.
I have Philadelphia. At Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So Philly's playing too good right now.
I want to root for the Skins, but this is not going to
I do too, but I just think Philly's playing too good right now.
Brett?
Yep, Eagles.
Wow, we're exact opposite from our listeners. We got Cat and Henry both took the Skins.
It wouldn't bother me if you guys were right, but I just think Philly, it's at Philly. I think they're playing really well right now. Washington had a not real great game. And he's a rookie quarterback. He'll go through some – this is a tough game.
Okay, then we got 7-3 Baltimore, 3-point favorites going into Pittsburgh, who's 7-2. What do you got, Brett?
That's a tough one.
We don't pick no ding-dong games here.
No. It's tough to go against Henry and Baltimore. If you're right about their defense, I think this is going to be a 3-point game either way. So give me Baltimore.
I'll take the Steelers.
Eric?
Gosh, it's at Pittsburgh. Baltimore.
I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next game, we got Atlanta, who laid a huge egg in New Orleans last weekend. who's 6-4. They're at Denver, who's 5-5, 2.5 point. They've put Denver as 2.5 point favorites. Who wants to go first?
The Atlanta Sybil's against the Denver Broncos, because Atlanta is Sybil. I mean, you never know what team's going to show up.
No doubt.
And I just keep looking at Kirk Cousins going to Denver, and I think that's got crap game written all over it.
Who's got our ticker?
Give me the Broncos.
I'm taking Denver as well.
I'm taking Denver only because it's at Denver. I mean, Atlanta is just such a tough pick because you just don't know.
Denver.
You don't know who's going to show up.
No, that's the problem.
And Henry's taking Denver, but Kat is taking the Falcons. Okay, next we have Kansas City go down to defeat for the first time this season. They are 9-0, traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo is 2.5 point favorites at 8-2.
You know me, I'm going with the Bills. I'm going to get one of those KC games back. The streak ends Sunday.
I am taking Buffalo as well.
What's the weather going to be like?
It might rain and it might not.
Kat's taking the Bills. Henry's taking the Bills. I think Eric wants you to go first, Chad.
I'll take Kansas City.
Gosh, dang you, Chad. Oh, I thought you were going Buffalo and I was going to go Kansas City.
Kansas City Magic.
I'm taking Kansas City. I've learned not to pick against them.
And the final game. Cincinnati 4-6, who just can't get out of their way this year, going to the 6-3 LA Chargers. The LA Chargers are 1.5 favorites.
You know, I just hate LA Chargers. It was so much more fun when you said San Diego Superchargers. I mean, you just can't. I don't know. I'm taking Cincinnati. Give me Joe Burrow, baby.
That's so am I.
I mean,
and I am taking Cincinnati as well.
Yep. Who day? The Bengals.
Wow, I can't believe none of you took Harbaugh and the Chargers.
I think Burrow is playing.
Henry took the Chargers.
Oh, Burrow's playing great. That's not the problem.
Here's the deal. I understand Cincinnati's defensive problems, but if Burrow turns this into a shootout, I don't think the Chargers can play in a shootout.
No.
That's my feeling. I don't think the Chargers can play in a shootout. Now, if the Chargers can control it, keep the game low scoring, they run the ball like they want to do, take lots of time off, keep the ball out of Burrow's hands, Chargers could easily win that game. But I think the way Burrow's playing, if he turns that into a shootout, I just don't think the Chargers can keep up. So, I mean, we'll see. But I noticed, Ed, that you, with the 71-46 record, even though I was 9-4 last week, you kept me in third. I'm kind of disappointed.
You know what it is? You know what it is?
What?
It's called not wanting to retype the whole damn thing. You just leave it in the order it is and change the numbers.
Dude, I can appreciate that.
Because your co-host doesn't step up and do anything. He just shows up 15 minutes before the show starts.
When you got a co-host that jumps on 5 minutes before you go live, and everything is on my shoulders, baby.
Here's the deal.
Behind the scenes look, everybody.
Here's the deal. You know what? I did all of this at the start. And then all of a sudden, you started jumping on, and you did a little bit of this. And then all of a sudden you felt the need to jump on like on Monday and add this.
Because I
and
got
do all
tired
this.
of listening to you whine every week about, I don't have time for this. I'm
No,
so busy.
I never said that. I just said that I have to jump on at 6 o'clock to get all this stuff organized and get it on. You've decided that you want to go on Monday night, Tuesday night, and that's fine.
Eric,
Okay,
don't,
okay.
Eric, don't talk this way to the man who used to change your diapers.
God, that's disgusting.
You put some respect on his name.
That is so disgusting. Ugh.
Yeah.
I know you were 12, but come on.
The fact that man used to babysit me means that my parents should have probably been put in jail for child abuse. And the fact that he actually changed a diaper, if you ever did.
I got pictures you haven't even seen yet, Eric. I don't think you're ready for them yet.
Oh, like, I feel terrible for you.
So Brett, before I hit the button, we gotta thank everybody for watching, and you can do another shout out, because what happens? We get off every week and we say, "Damn, we forgot to thank the pages and everything." So
like and follow.
Yeah, thank everyone for allowing us to post in your groups. We really appreciate it. Can't thank you enough, and we will definitely see you guys next week.
Yeah, we got 760 some followers or something like that, but only 400 and some likes. So give us a like out there too, guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching.
Or YouTube, Instagram,
yep,
Facebook, X.
Yeah, we're hitting them all. So with that said, got some big games going starting tomorrow night. So everybody enjoy another weekend of football. We'll see you again next Wednesday.
Thanks for-
And that's the